Hey guys, we're live. I'm Loren Malloy. This is my co-host, Jess.
Hi,
How you doing,
how
Jess?
you doing?
I just want to let everybody know, yay, we got Jess back. She's feeling better. She's recovering and looking fantastic. And we have a wonderful guest. Welcome, Hoodoo Sen Moise. Hello, sir. How are you?
Hi.
I'm good. How are y'all?
Very, very good. I just want to make sure everybody knows to like the page and please share this video around. Please leave your comments and questions in the comment section of this live video. But understand, StreamYard has a silly thing going on where you have to give them permission. But guess what? It's only so they don't get in trouble for your comments. So don't worry about it. Say yes, give permission, write your comments so it can pop up on the screen. And then our guests can answer your questions. So after all that, stuff we got to say, let's get to it. So, Sen Moise, why don't you give everybody a quick little recap, just in case they didn't read the description of tonight? Why don't you explain to everybody a little bit about yourself, and then we'll go into some interesting questions.
Well, I was raised in Southern Conjure, something that I've been doing for the last 39 years. I guess it'll be in May. One of the big things about that that it seems like a lot of people forget about is the elevation of the ancestors that brought that magic here. So anybody who knows me knows that I harp a lot about that particular part of the work because it's extremely important and can never be forgotten. I'm also an Hougan, a high priest in Haitian Vodou. I am a published author. I wrote the book Working Conjure.
Yes, I love it. I own the book. So good.
And I live in New Orleans, Louisiana, and I have Conjure New Orleans Magic Company, a store down in New Orleans. And I travel a lot, doing like teaching and events and conferences and stuff like that. And well, basically, that's in a nutshell.
That's a lot of stuff, though. So let's see. Let's try to go back through. First of all, it sounds so cool to be able to live in New Orleans. Like, it sounds like, except during Mardi Gras, I couldn't imagine having to live anywhere near there during Mardi Gras season. But otherwise, it sounds like it's got to be a lot of fun. Is it like as party central all year round as we think, or is it?
A lot of the year it is under normal conditions. There's always people here. Everybody seems to they think that it's like Mardi Gras and that's it. It's not. There are a bunch of different holidays that we celebrate throughout the year. For example, like my favorite holiday here is Easter.
Oh, really?
It's so much fun.
Can you explain how you do Easter?
Well, in New Orleans, like Easter, there are parades, but they're not like like parades because New Orleans is a Catholic city.
Okay.
They have there's a big thing that's done. There's this big contest called the Ugly Hat Contest, and you'll see like 10,000 people with the most ridiculous hats that ever imagine. And there is they have the Gay Easter Parade that comes through here, and there's people everywhere. It's really a lot of fun.
That sounds exciting. I want to go to all of them if I could.
Absolutely, yeah, it is. And then of course, New Orleans is the birthplace of what's called Southern decadence, which is all. That's like a miniature Mardi Gras, I guess you could say. It's like a big gay weekend. Full of all kinds of stuff. New Orleans is also a very gay city. which gives it some flavor.
That's fantastic, though. So, when
But
did you first open your studio? Is that the correct store in New Orleans? When was that? When did you decide I got to open a store there?
well, that was in 2017. Before that, like what would I was traveling, which I still do. But I mean, it was just one of those things to where I think it's time,
Right.
to do that. And one of the things, like, there are a bunch of of great places, great stores and stuff, in New Orleans, and I wanted to do my part. Like there's great like witchcraft stores, and there's other voodoo stores, and just all kinds of stuff. And so that was just kind of the idea, initially. So that way, I don't know, it might keep me home more, but it doesn't.
So what is one of the you say you travel a lot, which I know I met you at a convention we were both working at, and you really did change my life. I have to bring it up on the show. You definitely changed my life. I was going through some horrible stuff. I couldn't figure my life out. You and I had a conversation. You helped me out, and it totally changed everything and opened up the path for all of my success. So thank you very, very much.
Oh.
Truly. And I've always wanted to have you on a show that I had, because I wanted more of the world to be able to know who you are, because if you can help this crazy bitch out, you can help anyone. So I remember I was like, oh God, he's going to think like this crazy bitch I don't want to deal with. So I was like, excuse me. And you're like, I was like, yay, okay. So it's nice how inviting and accepting you are of everyone, of respectful means, I mean. But I just wanted to make sure I brought that up, because it is a big deal to be able to do what you do for people. And
what do you do for people? How would you assist
Well,
in helping?
Well, actually, I think that the first part of the answer that Lauren should give.
You have to ask. You have to ask to help. You have to ask him to help you, I guess, would be my first part, right?
Yeah, of course. I mean, it's not that it's not that everybody has to ask or anything like that. But you absolutely should. But like, one of the things that I do a tremendous amount of is I read for people, because everybody they have questions, and they have concerns and such about things that may be coming up, or current situations and conditions that they're in. I do spiritual work for people. I counsel a lot. And God, I mean, the list goes on, I guess you could say. I teach a lot, not because that I think that I'm the be all and end all, but because I think that, with teaching, wisdom can be gained. And if there's somebody that is, seeking that, then, who am I to refuse it to them? With me, I don't give a shit. I don't care if you're a Vodouisan, if you're a root worker, if you're a witch, if you're a Buddhist. I don't care about that, because everyone has to work out their own salvation. But if I can point a direction or point a way for a road to open up for someone, then that's what I'm going to do.
Very true. Can you explain a little bit about your title? Because you were talking about how you're a Hougan priest. Did I say that correct?
No.
Then fix it for me. See?
Hougan, it's Hougan, but the H is silent. Hougan is a priest in Voodoo. I'm a high priest in Haitian Vodou, We have a place down in Latan, Haiti, which is right outside of Port-au-Prince. And, part of that is to, work with those spirits to, voodoo in and of itself is not a solo practice. It's not. It can't be. It's impossible for it to be. But it is a practice that's about community and about family, because realistically, that's kind of what voodoo is. And the birthing of Haitian voodoo as we know it today came because people came together to overcome a horrible condition down there, which was during the Middle Passages, whenever slaves were being brought over, and a lot of slaves from certain places, from like Old Dahomey and Congo and Nigeria and such, were dropped off on the island under these horrible conditions. And at some point enough was enough, and so they all came together, and a ceremony was done. One of the Loa had come down, and that's what kickstarted the Haitian Revolution, which is the only successful slave revolt in history. And they defeated Napoleon's army not once, but twice.
Wow.
See, I love that. And most people don't realize that, because it's not like it's something they teach in high school,
No.
No, of course not.
I don't even think that they would, if you looked into it on my own, I don't know if I would even come across that kind of information. That's really great.
Now,
what is the difference?
Go ahead.
Okay.
Yes. You go first, Jess.
What's the difference? I didn't want to throw anybody off, but what is the difference between the hoodoo and the voodoo?
Well, number one, they come from different places. Number two, voodoo is a complete spiritual path. Like I hate the term, but people understand it, I guess, better, is a religion, whereas hoodoo or conjure is not. That's basically magic work that's used to change a condition. Now, are they similar or related? In some ways, there is influence that's there. The way that I like to describe it is that, they're like a family that lives in one house, but they sleep in different bedrooms.
Oh, I like that. That's a really good analogy for that.
So, because hoodoo comes primarily from the Congo part of Africa, whereas voodoo comes primarily from, in today's world, the country is Benin. So they're like cousins, like I said, and there is influence, one and the other, but they're not. They are not the same. They're not necessarily worked in the same way, and there may be some overlap between the two, because if you're a family living in the same house, when you sit around the dinner table, you're going to have like conversations, right? So it's kind of like that.
Right. Like you might share some recipes while keeping some secret, not secret, but like to yourself.
Exactly. Exactly. You don't know the secret ingredient in a potato salad.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Now, I have. What would be, if there is, one major difference between the two? Is there like one thing that one definitely does that the other doesn't, in a way, or is that? Do you know, like, my kind of question?
Well, one of the things in voodoo, we have spirits called the Loa,
right?
And they're the Loa of that tradition, that religion. In hoodoo, not so much. Hoodoo is just about basically magic work, whereas there's not really there's no worship that's involved in it. Whereas in voodoo, there is, in a way.
Now, you keep using a word that for this show is a lot for like people who are just discovering. So you said the luau. I'm not going to say the word right. Please, can you explain to everybody kind of what that is so they have more of an understanding?
Voodoo is a monotheistic tradition, whereas god, whose name is Bonji, basically is busy running the universe and doesn't have time to deal with the petty dealings of man. So God gave us the Loa, or the spirits, to help us in our day-to-day lives. When people ask me about the Loa, the way that I kind of describe them is that the Loa are kind of like what I would describe as a principality. Kind of like the archangels in a way.
Okay.
And so with that, they have a tremendous amount of influence over, what's done. We work with the Loa to, bring blessings, to bring healing, but the Loa will also scorn you. They will beat your ass in front of everybody and, let everybody watch, but it's not anything that's done out of malice or anything like that. It's more to, provoke a change.
Kind of like your grandma with a slipper.
Yeah.
At a family party.
Yeah, she's going to bust your ass. Mm-hmm.
Stop putting your hand in potato salad. I can't help myself. I have to make jokes. Awesome. All right.
But I mean, like that's a big part of, like the difference there is, the act of worship in one and not necessarily the other. But like I said, both of them, there's influence, on both sides because they are cousins.
Because they are what?
They're like cousins.
Cousins. Okay. That is so interesting. So what is something you think you like the most about what you do?
Realistically, one of the things that I absolutely adore and love is communion with the spirit. Okay. It's something that, in my opinion, is one of the most beautiful and most sacred things that anybody can hold. When you have a strong relationship with your spirits, what ends up happening is that it makes you stronger. It gives you, drive, resilience, opens up doors, points the way, and if the hand of that spirit, hand of the spirits are on you, then what happens then? You begin to pour it out because, like I said, this is not about a one person thing. It's not. It's not a solo thing, but this is about, it's about community, and it's about, like, if you have a problem, that means we all have a problem. You know what I mean? So it's not.
It kind of feels good, like you're not alone.
Right, of course. And it's something that I would never, ever, ever trade, because it has. The potency of the relationship in and of itself is something that, like I said before, not only brings you strength, but also gives you clear vision and also helps you to strengthen other people.
That's amazing. Now I have a question. You said, how do you commune with them? How is that, may I ask, how is that process if somebody wanted to do that, or is that not something we can do?
Realistically, the biggest part of the communion with the spirits is, like I said, Voodoo is very familial. It's about family. And so those spirits will come down in possession and they'll, talk with everyone, or do whatever it is that they want to do because, they're going to do what they want. So, and that typically happens within the context of a ceremony. Another thing is that, you go to places that they live, and you just talk. You talk and
what do
you
you
listen.
mean by the places where they live? Like cemeteries, or is that a silly statement?
There are some who live in the graveyard. There are some who live in the river. There are some who live in the ocean. Some live in the crossroads. Some live in the railroad tracks. Some live in the marketplace.
Is that why you should pick your feet up over the railroad tracks? Because I've done it all my life, and I thought somebody had said that if you keep your feet on the ground while you're like driving over it, they could like attach somehow. I know it's a silly whatever, but is that kind of come from something
I've
with the railroad
always
tracks?
done that too. I don't know why.
But that's why I figured when you said railroad tracks, I'm like, let me ask, is that something that could attach somehow? Or is that totally stupid?
That's not something that they would do.
Ah, okay.
That's not something that they would do. As a matter of fact, like the Lawa of the railroad tracks, they're actually warriors and protectors.
Oh, cool.
That are there. And a big part of like why they're there is because of the strength of the track, the iron, of the railroad track. And so now, are there spirits that could attach themselves, that may be like roaming around? Sure.
Right.
There are. You have, there's random dead, walking around everywhere.
Right.
Now, how would you know who is part of your ancestors? How do you find them? Or you
like,
just
so you don't get conned by like a negative entity, you mean, like that? Or
I guess how do you know who's on your side if you don't necessarily have a knowing of it?
Like how to not listen to the wrong kind of thing.
Are you talking about ancestors, or are you talking about like the Loa?
Who do you have by your side? Who your team is? How do you find them? I remember you, or maybe I'm not. You said that your ancestors are the most important part.
Absolutely.
And how do you find them? How do you know who's who?
Well, I mean, there's things that you can do to, first of all, to begin a relationship with your ancestors. The one thing that you have to understand is that when it comes to ancestors, your ancestors live in your blood. You are the living temple of those that came before you.
Okay.
And that statement has so much power too. Sorry.
Right? So you just have to ask for them to come forth, right?
Well, asking is a big part of it. There's other things that's involved with it. It's not just like saying, "Hey, can you come over here?" or whatever. Like there's things that are like feeding them, talking to them, giving them light, giving them water, those sorts of things. As far as ancestors go and who is who, your ancestors will reveal themselves to you. The ones that you know, and then there's ones that you don't. How do you know if you're on your side? Well, if somebody comes into your house and they act like an asshole, well, what would you do?
Kick them out the door.
Very good.
I answered for Jess because she's like, invite them in for tea is not the right answer.
Shut up.
I'm just teasing. I couldn't help myself. She's so much nicer than I am. That's why she counteracts my craziness. Sorry.
And in some cases like that, where there may be like issues with an ancestor, sometimes what they need is elevation.
Okay.
And honestly, I will tell you now that one of the things that the Catholics got right is how to elevate a spirit. That they, and it's actually, and it works wonders. Like,
and what is that?
Well, what I do is that you take and you go have masses said for that particular ancestor.
Gotcha.
Okay.
You can also do like a novena for that ancestor, where you start with the candle on the floor and then you elevate it.
That's where it comes in. Okay.
Those are things that can be done, because maybe that ancestor is not exactly at peace. Maybe that ancestor had unfinished business before they became an ancestor that needs to be dealt with, and maybe it's something that you have to handle for them, because they can't really at the moment. Sometimes that there may be blockages when it comes to them being able to find peace, or them being able to elevate, for lack of a better term, and that's one of the responsibilities. But then again, and then there are just some that may just be complete assholes, and that's just how they're going to be. And if that's how they're going to be, they can't do that here.
I like that.
Mhm.
That's boundaries, no, in any spirit or plane, right? That's always good kind of thing. And I love that you were bringing up how like there's so many different kinds of like, I'm gonna say it wrong again. Please forgive me. Luau.
Lawa.
Luau. See, I got that. Where
Just think of Lawa. Lawa.
Luau. Thank you.
Luau.
Okay, I got it now. Mea culpa. But I never heard of all the different ones. Is there I want more information on all of it. It's so fascinating. All the stuff you know, we could have you on the show every single week and still never know enough from you. That's how I feel. And you were talking about how like you help break stuff going on with ancestors. So like generational curses could be something that you're dealing with in your life to help break the past life stuff, right? Because I feel like that's been a message that keeps popping up and stuff. And that could be something to help elevate them through by breaking it, kind of thing.
Well, the thing is that I will tell you that I do not believe in generational curses.
Cool. Okay.
But what I do think that, may be an attributor, to conditions that people have, that come with them is that there may need to be, elevation and healing work that's done.
Right. That makes sense.
And that's a part of it. Like, and that can, go with like what we talked about, or like, let's say that, you found out that like one of your ancestors, did something, horrible or whatever. And they did it to somebody else. And, the other person they did it to is also passed, but they, still have family. If they do, you can, do something, find the family and do something, apologetic or,
right.
For them. I mean, there's a lot of things that can be done. A lot of times what happens is that people tend to overthink and they tend to overcomplicate things when they don't need to be. Okay. And I think that is probably one of the biggest hindrances when it comes to like what trips people up. Because, sometimes, someone, like, for example, they're so worried that, is this candle exactly, exactly in the north, or is it like a little bit to the northeast, or is it not? And then like they start like, freaking out over that, when, it's there. So just do it.
Yeah.
They sometimes, I mean, detail, yes, is always something that's needed. But if you continually overthink it, the only thing that you're going to end up doing is tripping yourself up with whatever work that you're trying to do.
Right, because that kind of energy into it is never good, right?
Yeah, you're going to be so focused on, what you're overthinking that the work that you're trying to do is going to be blocked by that.
That makes sense. Jess, I know you got questions. Go ahead, girl.
I know. I almost don't know what to ask. So if somebody is failing in health, what would you recommend that they do?
That could be a big question.
I mean, I'm just curious because it's hard for me to, take care of myself sometimes. And I was just wondering what you recommend as far as.
Well, number one, and number one, what you just said is a big part of that is, taking care of yourself, changing an eating habit or whatever. Number two, there you can go to your spirits, go to your ancestors, and you can petition them, to bring healing. Sometimes what happens is that we always tend to go to the spirit without looking at the physical at all. And, there is an old saying, which I believe is very, very appropriate still to this day. And that's, don't be so heavenly minded that you're no earthly good.
Oh, I like that.
That's a good point. Yeah. I've actually come across people who have so much faith that, Jesus,
right. I mean, it's just like, it's like, the people who they have so much faith that they're gonna take and dance around with rattlesnakes looking in their face and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And then whenever they get bit, their faith is gonna heal them until they die.
Angel Wings stopped by and said, "Good evening, blessings, heart. Thank you for stopping by, sweetheart."
Hey, Angel, how are you?
Hi.
Please share this video around and leave comments and questions. I'm so happy to see you and hear from you. Yay. Go ahead.
So what if you're not particularly sure what's going on? Or if it's like something that's kind of out of your hands?
Well,
is there anything that really is?
That is something I would absolutely go. I would go to my spirits with and ask for their help, because one of the things that they can also do, like your ancestors and such, because again they live in your blood, is they can reveal things that you may not know or you may not realize to you. And then what does that do? It opens up a door. It points a direction for healing.
Okay.
Like for example, someone may be like going through like depression or whatever, start drinking, passion fruit, passion flower tea, but the thing is that we always have to balance out. We have to balance out the mundane with the spiritual. Always, always, always. When you look at the crossroads, what you're going to look at is you're going to look at it's as if you had a mirror right here and you have a mirror right here. Those mirrors continue to reflect into one another. One side is the physical, one side is the spirit. So what happens on the physical will manifest in the spirit, and what happens in the spirit will manifest in the physical. They balance one another out, but we have a responsibility to do both of those things. That's like, if you, for example, you do money work for somebody, and they want you to do, prosperity and such work for them. And the only thing that they do is they sit their ass on the couch and wait for a bag of money to fall out of the ceiling into their lap. I don't think so. The majority of work, whatever it is, the majority of it, it will begin and it will end in the crossroads. Always.
I love that.
Because the crossroads is that meeting place between the physical and the spirit. And everything that opens, even with work, whether it's healing work, whether it's love work, whether it's prosperity work, whether it's protection work or whatever. What does the crossroads do? It opens a door. So it opens that door for that love to come. It opens a door for that healing to come. It opens a door for that prosperity to come, et cetera, et cetera. And so it's about looking at what is the bigger picture. In that, and the bigger picture is that again, you can do all the magic that you want to. It's like a lot of people. They talk about intent. Okay, that's wonderful, but I can intend to go make myself a cheeseburger, but if I don't get my ass up off the couch and put the meat in the pan and turn on the stove, guess what? My intentions are there, but I ain't getting shit.
Right.
So it's like I said, it's there's a balance that's there, and not overthinking things is something that if you can manage. Some folks, it's difficult for them not to, because they're very, very analytical to begin with. They're always going to be, like looking and thinking, well, did I do this right? Or did I do that right? Or how'd that go? And how'd that work out? Et cetera, et cetera. Like when it comes to that, it's about letting that relationship with your spirits lead you, letting your ancestral relationship lead you, where you're supposed to go down the path you're supposed to be going in, and doing what you're supposed to do, because it is the ancestors that are going to open up doors for you, whether, whatever that path may be. They open up for you doors for you, for spiritual paths. They open up doors for mundane things. They do all of that, because understand this, that whether we realize it or not, some of the strongest and, in my opinion, best spirits to have in your corner are your ancestors. And the reason why is because you are the one who is carrying that torch now. You are the one who is blazing that trail that they blazed whenever they had bodies. So they're going to do everything that they can for you to make sure that that path continues to get walked.
I love that. Okay, we have a question. Angel Wings asks, is it acceptable to make offerings to your ancestors and possible spirits that aren't in your bloodline but are a part of your spiritual court in the same altar?
So there are three types of ancestors. Three. You have the ancestors of the blood, there are the ancestors of initiation, and there are the ancestors of adoption.
Ooh.
If they fall under one of those three categories, then they become, in essence, your ancestors. Now, you may have, depending, because some ancestors like to, they like to cut up and stuff, and, argue back and forth and such. You may have to have a conversation about that. But if they are one of your ancestors, then yes. Would I take, being a priest in Voodoo, would I take one of the Loa and put them on my ancestor altar? No, because the Loa have their space, ancestors have theirs, and they're cared for in different ways.
Okay.
So hopefully that answers Angel's question.
Now, she caused me to have a question. Spiritual court is a phrase I've never actually saw before. Can you explain that a little bit? I know we probably already did, but it's a new thing I've never heard of. Really.
A lot of times, depending on the context, because there's various ways that term can be taken. Spiritual court, in a nutshell, are spirits that walk with you.
Oh, like your spiritual team kind of thing?
It could be like, some people have like what they call them, spirit guides.
Right.
In Voodoo, we have Loa. It's called an esco or an escort, et cetera, et cetera. So when it comes to the court, essentially, what it means are spirits that walk with you. People often ask, how do I discover that? How do I know who? Well, that's going to depend on which path that you're headed down, because different traditions and different paths have various ways of doing things that are not the same. So, like, I could say, this is how we do it in Voodoo, but someone else in like maybe in like one of the Wicca traditions or something, well, this is how we do this in Wicca, and they're not the same.
Right.
So, like, with that, especially when it comes to like the discovery of the spiritual court, depending on the path, then that's where I would look at to see how that's done. And then you have folks that are natural mediums, and so spirits going to be around them. And sometimes it can be a challenge to tell who may be in their court or who may not be, because they're spirits that are always coming through, because they become a channel for that. And a lot of times with that, especially like with mediums, like that spiritual court reveals itself with time. Because when you have so many spirits that are around you all the time, it's like I said, it's kind of hard to tell who's who. But then after a while, you begin to notice how the same spirits stick around. And so, for mediums, like, and again, there's different ways, with that people make determinations with that. At the end of the day, realistically, it's going to depend on, whatever that tradition is to determine who is in that court. Because, things are done differently, and, some of those, for lack of a better term, technologies are not exactly the same.
Right. Angel Wing says, I definitely feel that. I've been trying to figure out who is all in my court. Haha. Angel Wings, you're cute. Thank you for stopping by. That's awesome.
Well, I'll just add on a little bit to that, Angel, is that, sometimes what's going to happen is that, as time goes on, your court may grow. Like there may be, other spirits that end up, coming into that, that weren't there, 10 years ago, that weren't there, 15 years ago or what have you. So for someone to say, this is your spiritual core and this is an absolute and that's it, you can't really do that because there are other, that there over time experience and what, path you may be going down. There are other spirits that may, bring themselves, to become, one of the spirits that's in your court.
Well, especially if, like you said, if every time you're working a certain path, you're either opening up new spots or new skills or whatever it is where you'd need more or different additional spiritual team members that have those kind of skills they're going to teach you kind of thing, right?
Wait, say that one?
I mean, like, as you're going through a journey, depending what path you start taking, it would make sense that you might have more added to your spiritual court based on the new skills you need to learn or path you're working on. That's all I was thinking.
Well, I mean, at the end of the day, it's their choice,
right?
Whether they do or not. And one thing that I will add to that, and this is something a little bit, in my opinion, of a mistake that I've seen some people make is that they believe that certain spirits are in their court based on their own characteristics or, their own makeup. They see a similarity between themselves and the spirit. Then they make assumptions that spirit is there, and that's not exactly true. Just because the way that your mannerisms and your characteristics are a certain way and you act a certain way doesn't mean that spirit is in your court. That could just be who you are and you're naturally, like that, but it doesn't make it, this is how it is.
Okay, cool. Now, if Angel wanted to work on that more and find out more, can she contact you possibly, or is there somebody else that should do that?
We already got that set up.
Oh, then Angel, we'll let you talk to him later on. Keep it going. There you go. All right. I just didn't want to leave anybody hanging. You know what I mean? All right, Jess, do you have another question?
What's lit up in your closet there in the background?
Flickering behind you?
That's my altar.
Oh, okay.
It's so pretty. I'm glad you
It
asked,
is. It's
Jess.
beautiful.
The light is just pretty.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that.
Wow, that's pretty cool.
That is beautiful.
Wow.
Hold on. That is beautiful. I love the flickering lights of it.
Oh, wow, that's so neat.
It has a nice energy to it.
It does.
Yay, thank you for sharing us. That's awesome.
Yes.
What do you think is one of the, I don't even know how to ask the question. Like the stuff you do seems so fascinating and it seems like there must be so much work involved. How do you ask the question? I know you have a question, Jess. You ask because I'm stuck.
That's okay. So when you at your shop and people call you for assistance, is that where you typically do any help or assistance? Do you do it at your shop or do you go to their location?
No, I mean, it depends on what's going on.
Could you do it over the phone if necessary?
People call me all the time on the phone, for that. And typically that's the easiest thing. They'll just go and they'll make an appointment. They'll go to my website and they'll make an appointment.
What's the website?
What's that?
What's the website since we're talking about it?
The website is hoodoosenmoise.com.
There you go, guys. Make sure you go to it. Keep going. I'm listening.
So But like I was saying before, like I have a lot of people who come to me for for counseling, for readings, for work and stuff, and it's just a matter of getting all of that balanced out. Is it a heavy burden? Absolutely, it is.
Yeah, I can't imagine.
But at the same point in time, it's something that I know that I was born to do.
And so, what kind of readings? What are you? Are you like clairvoyant, or is there a certain type of reading that you would do for somebody?
Well, I mean, there's typically within the scope of a reading. One of the things I don't do is when somebody comes to me and they want a reading, they're like, "Oh, well, just read me." No. I need to know what I need to focus on, because I'm not here for your entertainment. I'm here to help. So typically with a reading, it will involve, number one, what may be going on, in that individual's life, and paths that need to open up or need to be taken with that. Number two, the spirit will come in and will kind of talk in the back of my head, and and then I'll give whatever message maybe that they're given to me to to the individual at the time. But the whole point of a reading is to gain knowledge, wisdom, and to essentially kind of illuminate a path, so to speak, where you may be going, what you may need to be looking out for, that sort of thing.
I have a question. I've heard a lot about right hand, left hand work. Can you explain a little bit about that for everyone that's new?
Yeah, well, right hand and left hand work is kind of just, it's a phrase that's been taken to mean, work that is good and work that is not good. But the way that we look at it is it's work that is balanced. So, in order for work to be balanced, sometimes you got to do something good and sometimes you got to do something not so good. When they talk about left hand work, typically they're talking about cursing and that sort of thing.
Right.
Whether something is good or evil, that's relative. Something is moral or immoral, that's relative. I mean, that changes depending on, where you are. For example, if you go to, there are other countries that, they, one of their favorite things to eat is dogs. And over here, we don't think in that way, but we think that they're, that's immoral or whatever. And so those terms are really relevant. It's about balance. And, realistically, the only way to be balanced is to know how to work with both hands. Sometimes you got to do, a little good. Sometimes you got to do a little not so good.
Now, is there actually doing too much good? I understand the balance, but I'm just trying to.
So what happens with that is you look at it, or we look at it like a scale. Okay. There's a scale, and if that scale is supposed to be balanced out. Okay. And if there's too much on one side and not enough on the other, then what happens is chaos comes in and takes over and just screws everything up.
So it's gonna make it balanced.
Well, with that, what I tell people, one of the examples that I love to give when it comes to left hand work, because people they get afraid of it and they think that it's evil or whatever, but Like let's say that that you're in your house and you're asleep in the bed, and your family's in the bed, and all of a sudden you hear a window break, and you hear this window break, and somebody's coming into your house, and they're coming to hurt you and your family. Are you just going to turn the other cheek just to do good to them?
No, that's
because I can tell you, if somebody comes in my house like that, they ain't never leaving.
No,
right.
No.
I ain't
Right.
even call neither. They never.
No, that body's facing in, not out for sure. Always have the body facing in.
But that's an example. As sometimes it's necessary. Now, is it justified? Like if somebody cuts you off in traffic, is it justified to to do left hand work or lay a trick on them or a curse or whichever term you want to use? No, that's not. But that's one of the responsibilities of a spiritual worker, is not only to be in communion with their spirits to listen, but also to be wise enough to look at the situation as a whole, at the bigger picture, and see what may need to be done.
I was always fearful of that because there are some people that we associate with that do certain things that I was always wondering, well, what if that person was just mad at that other person for reasons that, were unreasonable, and then they wished harm on them or asked somebody to do harm. And I always try to look at the bigger picture and thinking, okay, that person might be an asshole, but he might be an asshole for really a reason that I could be almost accepting of it. You don't know what that person's going through. So I always wondered how that worked out. If somebody,
right. And that's about finding, whether or not, the work, is it justified or not? What's the condition? What's the circumstances? Did you do a divination? Did you ask your spirits and see what they have to say about it? Especially if it's something that directly involves you, because you're probably going to be emotionally charged with that, and you're going to see things in a biased way. And so, like, we go through these, steps, to make sure that that what we do is the right thing to do, the justified thing to do. It's not about good or evil; it's about balance.
Gotcha.
So the whole kind of like, if you do something bad that you'll get bad karma is really kind of just a BS thing. Is that really? That's always what I got yelled at about. Do that, you're gonna get punished.
Yeah, well, we don't.
Kind of right.
Yeah, we don't believe in karma. We believe in balance. And
I like that.
Like when people say, "Oh, yeah, if you do this, then this is going to come back on you," and blah 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 blah. That's that turn the other cheek bullshit. And I'm sorry, no.
So glad you said that. I needed you to say that out loud. It makes me so because it's one of those things I feel like is constantly said just to try to like almost enable the continuous behavior versus like we're gonna balance out what's going on. You know what I mean? I don't know.
Right. Well, and that's again, it's about bringing those scales into balance. For example, like. It's one thing for somebody to cut you off in traffic. It's another thing for a coworker to, maliciously, get you fired from your job. Like that's a whole, you know what I mean? So we're dealing with different things. So, it's about looking at, like I said, looking at the bigger picture and having the wisdom that's needed to see whether or not the work, that kind of work would be justified or not.
What level of DEFCON does it actually fall in? If it's DEFCON 1, do something. If it's DEFCON 5, take a sip of something.
Right.
Or a puff of something. Whatever your choices are, each to their own. I can't help myself. We have been having a fantastic hour, and we only have a few minutes left. And I want you to please give everybody your idea or an example of something you want everybody to understand about what you do versus maybe a stigma or a misconception before we wrap up.
Okay. So when I look at myself, me, I don't like. I'm just me. I'm nobody. I'm just me. The only thing that I also am is a vessel, and you know, I try to pour out the spirit for other people, so that not only can their lives be better, not only can they be better, but also so that doors and such for them can open up. I believe very, very strongly in spiritual relationships and having those bonds that are there, because it's those bonds that are going to carry you through whenever the storm hits. And trust me, the storm will always hit. There will always be a season of that. So when it gets right down to it, at the end of the day, more than anything else, I'm a servant. That's what I am. That's it. It's like, I'm not one of those people who is, I'm not out there, trying to be like, glamorous and, and all this other happy shit. I'm not, I'm not trying to do any of that crap. But, if I can make a change in somebody, then I've done my job.
Jess, isn't he beautiful? I just love that.
I can't wait to go on your website.
So real, because you're so real. You're authentic. You're real. There isn't any fake bullshit about you. And that's one of the reasons I adored you from the first moment I saw you. I was like, he sparkles with good energy. Like, I don't know how to explain it. Sparkle, glow, whatever. It's just like this amazing good energy of realness in the same way, where you're like, you're going to tell the truth, but you're going to do it in a fabulous way. Elizabeth Bosco actually just wrote, yes, I love him. See that? I'm glad I said it. Haha, not just me. This is why I had to have you on. And I know we could talk for a billion years and I will still not have the right kind of questions. But it's so fascinating, all the stuff you know and are able to do and the lives that you have absolutely changed. Angel Wings wrote, absolutely, big heart. Because, yes, big hearts to him. Yeah.
Yay.
So before we wrap up this hour, because we're going to definitely have to have you come back on at some point. I know you have a very busy schedule, so we'll wait a little bit. That way you get a break from us, and then you can come back on and tell us some more stuff. But before we wrap up, can you please let everybody know the title of your book again and where to get it and how to get in touch with you and follow you? That way more people can find out about you.
Sure. The title of my book is Working Conjure. You can get it at like booksellers like Barnes and Noble. Usually the easiest place to get it would be Amazon. You can get it from there. They can follow me on Facebook. My Facebook is Hoodoo Sen Moise. They can follow me on Instagram. It's Hoodoo Sen Moise. And they can go to my website, which is hoodoosenmoise.com.
Oh,
excellent.
Jeff,
thank you. It was
totally
awesome.
broke me. That .com always gets me. And I love your book. There's a picture somewhere online of me sitting outside, and it's just your book with like grass background or tree background, and I was just like, this is the exact moment I'm reading this book, and it totally changed my life. I have it out somewhere at all times because it's like, I know him, I met him, he changed my life, and I have his book now. Super fan.
I love that.
It's true. All right, Jess, this has been an incredible hour.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you so much for being on the show. I think we definitely learned a bunch of stuff. This is going to be on YouTube as well as Spotify and those other wonderful audio things. So lots of different people get to hear all this wonderful new information, and we will definitely try to get you back on the show in a few months from now. So we'll plan out some interesting questions for you. I'm sure we'll have you more.
Yeah. Right. Well, that sounds like a plan. So you guys have a wonderful rest of the night, and
thank you.
Be blessed, okay?
You too. And everybody else, please tune in next Tuesday and stay safe, everyone. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.